Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to TRTM for tonight's coverage of VSR Season 10, Round 10. As always, I'm Regan Clark. You join us here reeling from an exciting 9th round of the championship in Silverstone over to a sunny Monterey County, California, right here at the Laguna Seca Raceway. Founded in 1957 and the current day comprised of 11 turns and 2.2 miles of FIA Grade 2, it is the central hub for all things American motorsports, IMSA Sports Car, IndyCar, and Moto America, among several others in its itinerary year on year. We see here with this one, reeling from last week's results, Fake Galaxy took his first ever race win. Let's quickly look, though, at the championship standings before we get on to qualifying today. Taking a look at things, and White Doctor leads over Tyler Vermack by 18 points between the pair, with VSR Chris in 3rd place, JDM Grizz in 4th, with JDM Otzi in 5th, Elite Cassie down to 6th place with Regent up to 7th, and that's a points boost there up for Shawnee Mac up to 8th, 2 positions up to 9th goes JDM Bully, and that's a joint 9th he holds in the championship as we get towards the back end of the top 10 there. We see a joint 9th place between Bully Boy and the Blue Frog to round out the top 10. On towards qualifying then, and things a little bit on the fritz there, a little bit of a delay, so we'll just bring that back up in a moment's time. So, of course, recounting how things stood out of the last session to have passed here on board with Fake Galaxy at this time. And what a race that turned out to be for the number 55. He's out in the session. We'll get on to the topic of qualifying predictions and balance of performance in a moment's time. Just quickly to recount what the last results were looking like. It was his first and current only race win, long awaited there for the 55. We saw him as race winning material as far back as round 4 of the championship, even further before, actually no, not even further before that, but since round 4 when he made his debut at the Circuit of the Americas this season. He was seriously a talent to remember on this grid, so he'll be absolutely elated with how things went over the course of the last week of racing here, as we just quickly catch back on board now to get our qualifying timer back up. We had it by a minute's delay last time around, as we had a bit of a delayed start in the last broadcast we had for VSR, making their way down through to the corkscrew then. Let's go and catch on board with the one leading this charge in qualifying then. It's none other than the current championship leader and Season 8 VSR champion, White Doctor, in the number 54 BMW. As we get on towards his flying lap, let's take a look at where things are concerned in regards to the qualifying predictions and balance of performance. Taking a look here, Fake Galaxy is predicted at another pole position, and you can see by quite the impressive margin, just shy of 0.3 of a second over White Doctor, looking at a front row start. Tyler Vermack not too far behind whatsoever, about 257 thousandths of a second between himself and White Doctor, with Grizz in 4th place, just behind. Chris Davies, otherwise VSR Chris, finds themselves in 5th place ahead of JDM Otzi in 6th, Timo 7th, Nardo 8th, GTR Smiler in 9th, and JDM Shawnee Mac in 10th place. In the talks of balance of performance, things are looking rather peachy at this time for Ford. On home territory here in the United States, it's 9 kilos off of the Mustang. McLaren losing 8 kilos, Aston Martin losing 4, Ferrari losing 3, BMW losing 1, Nissan gaining 4. This is going to be a curious one today then. So we see a bit of upset out through turn 5 there for White Doctor right off of the bat, just before the run in through to turn 6 on the run up the Rahal Straight. In towards the most infamous section of the track, it's something that Laguna Seca is best well known for, down through turns 7, 8 and 8A on the run down through the corkscrew. So we see here with the 54 BMW in towards the rainy curve at turn 9. 17 minutes left to go, so already off to an impressive start here in terms of their flying laps. A bit of an upset out through turn 5, nothing that cannot be recovered over the course of the next 17 minutes, but off the track through turn 10 in towards turn 11. That could be an invalidation on the charts here. Telemetry says otherwise, just bringing it to our attention here. We see the telemetry does still show that he's in the clear. Down towards the line then goes White Doctor, a 1:24.170, our benchmark time of today, bringing up the charts there. He's off by 1.1 seconds as up to fastest goes Fake Galaxy, 1:23.032. The 61 from behind them, that is the Blue Frog returning to the grid. The 982 coming to the line from just a moment ago. VSR Funky Fish to 3rd. The number 6 there nearest to the line, JDM Otzi with Nissan across the line. They go. Sadly, no time on the chart there. 32 up next, and that's Smiler. Then to the line from behind them, the 999 there. That's Nardo. Sadly, no time onto the charts for the 999 at this time. Again, fantastic livery on that McLaren. Number 35 was behind them there, RSX Ryan. Number 4 coming next to the line, JDM Shawnee Mac with Nissan. Up and around turn 1 we go then. From behind them, the number 44, JDM Grizz, coming to the line here with Nissan. And it's three's company here for times failed to have been put on the charts for Nissans, whether it's been late exits or invalidations. They've had a bit of a struggle here in the start of qualifying today. Chris Davies coming to the line. So we see here, two-time champion toward the line, second fastest, and within that second barrier at the moment to the leading Ford. BMW stacking up behind, currently second, third, fourth and fifth, and as I say that, up to first and then down to second again. A brief exchange between Fake Galaxy and White Doctor, seeing the 54 for just half a second there, up in the leading spot of qualifying just after the first 4 or so minutes, coming up on the first 5 here in round 10. Fake Galaxy, new fastest time then, 1:22.677. The number 55 Mustang looking at potential back-to-back victories. Of course, it was joy and jubilations for this one back in Silverstone. Many times has it gone wrong before, where he's been leading the charge of the race and something steps into the way to take him out of the limelight. Not that time around, and it looks like he has really snapped himself together in the last couple of rounds here to pursue what could be several more race wins before the season's closure. At the moment, he finds himself 11th in the championship, just outside of that joint 9th place that comprises the back of the top 10 between Bully Boy and Blue Frog. But he's only off of those two by about 3 points, so he does stand the chances here, carrying that performance out of Silverstone into today at Laguna Seca for him to make his way to the top 10 by the time we get in towards round 11 and 12. Speaking of those last 2 rounds to come up after today, looking into the calendar there, the last 2 rounds after this one today. Barcelona, 45-minute sprint with no mandatory pit stop, and Suzuka at the season finale on February 4th, 2 weeks from now. That's an hour with 1 pit stop. Same regs as what we're seeing today here. 1 hour of racing to follow after the next 14 minutes of quali, with a single mandatory pit stop involved. Now up by 0.3 of a second, 1:22.525 in that last lap by Fake Galaxy. About to see the number 6 down towards the line. On their last lap, they made the top 5. Let's see what they can do beyond that position. Oatsy across the line. Sadly, no improvement on that last lap, so we catch on board next with the number 999. We've been informed as well of a disqualification, but unsurprisingly so, it has been the back row bandit, as it's been there. Regent in the number 420 Ferrari. He'll be reunited with his comrade in arms, the number 61 Bentley of the Blue Frog. We see Nardo up to 8th place over the course of that last lap there up the road from Dave, and the number 17. Now, that's a name we've not seen in quite some time here. I think it might have been, I want to say season 8 that was the last time we saw Dave in the number 70, albeit I don't know if it was with Bentley. It's been quite some time. Well, coming to the line next out through turn 11, number 196 Bully Boy, otherwise Mr. Bernie to some. From the line then, from 14th goes 4th. Puts himself in between 2 BMWs there. Chris Davies over his nose on the 2nd row, and behind him on the 3rd row now, relegated to the back of the top 5, VSR Funky Fish. Number 55 coming to the line. Could it be a new fastest? Yes, it is. 1:22.190. The new fastest time, again set over his previous best for Fake Galaxy. He is really looking to bring some serious intensity to the field this time around. This is the same kind of performance he entered the championship with back in the Circuit of the Americas here. It seems that he's really got almost a bit of an unintentional buff here on home soil for the Ford Motor Company. They competed out of Texas. It was a great race for them there. It fell apart under strategy. Ultimately, that's what gave away his chances of the race win in COTA. Here in California, he is looking to show some seriously strong pace over White Doctor. One time we've still yet to see here, unfortunately, we've just caught on board with them on the exit of turn 11 is Tyler Vermack. Now, he is predicted in and around that top 3. He is predicted at the best of times here on the front of that 2nd row. Let's see what he can do to the line, and there you have it. 3rd place, just before the halfway mark of qualifying. See in the chat at the moment, we've got Regent and Gioet Barres joining us here. A good evening to you, and a good evening to everyone else in the Twitch chat as well. So far, it has been a grand qualifying session. Ford and BMW clashing heads here. 2 juggernauts of GT3 currently hold all 3 of the top 3 rows. Almost in perfect synchronization there. Ford, Beamer, Ford, Beamer, Ford and Beamer. 2 legendary marks here, head to head. So you see a little bit of trouble for Tyler Vermack. Now, same spot that caught out White Doctor not too long ago. And speaking of as well, the gap between himself and White Doctor at this time, to do the rough maths in our head, about 40 5 thousandths of a second there. So just under half of a tenth of a second. Coming to the line, the 504, the number 6 as well. Oatsy stays where they are, and then from behind them, 982. Funky Fish, same story. Those two separated 6th from 7th by a factor of, looking at it there, 440 thousandths of a second. So we see the 89 still limping here. I think maybe coiling up for another lap. That's Tyler Vermack with Ford. Currently 3rd in this qualifying session. You see in the background there, Dave getting a little bit handsy on the exit of turn 10. Let's go and catch on board then with Vermack, as we see there, White Doctor peeling out of the pit lane. But let's go catch with the Fords here. Number 89 just making his way down to the Andretti hairpin here at turn 2. So he'll be our unofficial tour guide for all things Laguna Seca. Let's stay on board then with Tyler Vermack, and the number 89 currently on his way out through turn 2 in towards turn 3 we go. This very awkward first sector has caught many drivers out, and for every reason you can see very little, if any, runoff to be had out through turn 3. Now through turn 4 you can see dips 2 wheels there in the gravel. Or should I say more realistically, the sand here. It is a parched set of conditions here in Laguna Seca up through turn 5. And this is where we begin the perilous ascent uphill. Out through turn 6, a little dip on the inside. Easy for it to unsettle the balance of the cars you've just seen there. Up the Rahal straight we go, in towards turn 7 and 8. Then through turn 8A here at the corkscrew. That drop down here we've seen already kick a few back ends loose. We saw that in the double sprint round over in the penultimate runnings of Season 4 of the NLRL Sunday League. That was a fantastic race. Levi Warner and Melvin Milliston took race wins there. So we have already seen that Ford is race-winning material here. We've seen that up front at the moment with this dominant performance from Fake Galaxy. What can Tyler Vermack do then in the face of it all, just into the second half of qualifying? He's dangerously close to an improvement, but might just miss out there according to the telemetry, and sadly that he does, off by about a tenth of a second, and then some on top, about 10th and 300ths from what the telemetry was showing us. But he's back on to another flying lap. You see at the moment, this is Eurofighter down in 12th place. Bully Boy making his way back out, currently in a confident 4th. We're still yet to see a valid time here from Indian Goat. This is an interesting one. We've seen what he could do before with both Ferrari and moreover with BMW in his time in the VSR v Race Club UK v Simplay Motorsports Interleague race at Silverstone, and he competed by the name of Declan Anderson when he competed with BMW. We know him from his alias here, Indian Goat. And until they decide to run their real names, that's what we'll refer to them as for the sake of brevity. Towards the line then, and his first time on the chart puts him top 5, so it does upset the very finely curated balance held between Ford and BMW. You can see already with advances up to 4th, that balance was already starting to shift away from BMW, and Nissan makes that 3's company as well by putting JDM Grizz up onto that 3rd row, 6th place over his last lap there, and you can see separate from Indian Goat by only 2 thousandths of a second. So very fine stuff towards the back of the top 5. Meanwhile, Tyler Vermack crossed the line a moment ago to take the second fastest time. And moreover, that shifts him ahead of his championship rival, White Doctor. Those two separated by 18 points, making their way into round 10. With only 2 more rounds left to go, of course, every single position counts now in the opportunity between these two. Could it be a first championship here in VSR history for Tyler Vermack? Could it be a second for White Doctor after his historic bout with Just Boris? Had it been slightly different this season, we actually turned around there. That is Funky Fish. A bit of a funky line in through the corkscrew. Now, that's not going to be the first time, or for that matter, the last time we see this today. Plenty of drivers have been turned around before. It's quite the tank slapper section of the track across the line a moment ago. JDM Oatsy now 4th fastest for Nissan. Currently off of the nearest car by looking at it there, about 530 thousandths. That's to White Doctor on the 2nd row alongside him. So Nissan making great hustle here in Laguna Seca. Going toe-to-toe with Ford and BMW is no small feat, let alone on home ground for one of the two parties, Ford. Out through turn 6, we see here for Bully Boy, now pushed out of the second row to the back of the top 5 as it stands right now. He's much closer, though, to JDM Otzi than Otzi is to White Doctor, so there's that much to consider. There's a lot... Oh, my goodness, there. You see, a little early onto the throttle. Fortunately, kept himself from the barriers, so great reaction timing there from the 196. But it goes to show just how easy it is to overpower the car in through the corkscrew. Just that slight early application of the throttle was enough to kick the back end around when all of the weight was shifting over the nose. So for Bully Boy, it's not likely to be an improvement over the course of that last lap. We see JDM Otzi is back out on track. White Doctor currently out through turn 4. As we see here for Tyler Vermack in towards turn 7 and 8 at the corkscrew. As for Fake Galaxy, he's just made his way out through the rainy curve, now through turn 10 on his run in towards turn 11. Things are looking to get rather interesting. In the last lap just gone, Indian Goat took 4th fastest for Ferrari. And that's immediately shoved out of line by Chris Davies, now to 4th fastest across the line. Just that, oh my word, I don't believe what I'm seeing there, but yes, it is an improvement over his best, a 122.020. I think we do stand upon the chances here. Looking back just briefly with the qualifying predictions earlier on in this broadcast, it was a case where Fake Galaxy was pitched in the range of a 121.8, I should say. I'd say that's definitely still possible given the slightly different conditions we've had out of practice. 4.5 minutes left to go then, and Fake Galaxy is looking to be second to none here, leading by 3/4 of a second to the nearest car. Tyler Vermack in second. White Doctor on his last lap made solid improvement, but still needs to find 0.03 of a second to catch up to the front row here and to interrupt the balance set in stone by Ford. Right now, it's a lockout once again for Ford and BMW, but this time separate into their own leagues. Front row by Ford, second row by BMW, third row shared in accommodation there between Ferrari and Nissan. You're still yet to see a time and don't expect to be seeing one anytime soon here for the Blue Frog. Reunited, of course, with his sort of comrade in arms. These two have been from the back almost every, if not every single race in the case of Regent this season alone. This one has been away for some time, though. It's great to see the Blue Frog back on the grid. It's going to make for a vibrant performance between those two. The back row bandits, as we're starting to know them as. Made that up on the spot. I'm going to keep running with that until it becomes a thing. In through turn 6 goes the number 61. Number 420 still in the pit lane, of course, disqualified from this session, though I think that was the objective the whole time for Regent. We'll be seeing him over the course of this race. As we saw in Silverstone as well, it was a valiant performance from Regent, making his way from the back of the field in towards solid point-scoring positions. And we had that whole conversation in rounds 9 that this season has served as actually quite the redeeming story for that of Regent. It was a case where he was somewhat of a divisive figure on the grid, and his performance over the course of season 10 has proven that he has the technical skill to back all of it up. He is a solid driver. That much can be respected no matter what else happens. We see here out through turn 5 on with White Doctor. His last lap put him up to second fastest, so now it splits the Fords and the BMWs back up into descending order again. Ford Beamer, Ford Beamer. And I think it seems a little too present here that Ford will be taking pole position. I mean, the gap at the moment is the highest between any two sets of drivers on this grid, bar the back here between 14th and 15th, where that is in quite the astronomically large range of being in the ballpark of, looking at it there, about 3.8 seconds. So bar the obvious, that's the largest gap we see of any two cars. It's between the front row. Down towards the line then, can it be an improvement? Yes, it is, and up by 0.2 of a second to now what is 0.4 away. White Doctor onto his final flying laps here in Laguna Seca. About a minute and a half, so if he really gets the hammer down here when the lap's in the range of about a 122 at this time, there is the chance he'll have about 12 odd seconds on his run in towards the last official lap going. We'll see, though, what the 54 can do over the course of this lap. We'll catch next on board with the number 9, Indian Goat. routine visitor of the top 5 over the course of this qualifying session. Ferrari's sole representative in qualifying, the other being the number 420 that is deliberately making the choice to start from the back, as always. So we see separate from JDM Otzi on the 3rd row by only about 0.03 of a second. Very, very close. And that balance has been very finely maintained between Ferrari and Nissan this whole time. Coming to the line, the 196. We'll see if Bully Boy can return to the top 5. Across the line he goes. He will have one more lap after this one. Sadly, not on that last lap, but you can see he's separate from Otzi by 0.02 of a second. RSX Ryan from behind them made 9th. He too has one more lap to play with. Tyler Vermack across the line a moment ago has one more lap to play with as well. Stays in 3rd. The number 44 from behind him is JDM Grizz, still in 8th place. Number 54 coming to the line. So it was a little bit more than what we thought it would be. And across the line he goes. Though no improvement to be found, I don't think he'll be going out for one more lap. We can see they're throwing in the towel, the 54. Content with starting from the front row, but off by just shy of half a second to that of Fate Galaxy. It's showing a compelling sign to come here for Ford. Number 982 across the line a moment ago just beats the bell. That's Funky Fish. So BMW get one more redeeming chance. And I think Nissan just caught it by the tail just at the very end of the timer there. So that'll be JDM Otzi to have one more available flying lap. The 61 out on track. Don't expect to be seeing that one setting any times there. The Blue Frog reunited with the 420. Both of them starting from the back. And a bit of a slide out through turn 11. A little too much rotation. Can he style it out? And close enough. I don't think too long on that, of course. Stylish as it may be. The 196 wasn't too far off of him. Fortunately, Bully Boy now coming into the pit lane and collides with a wall there. That's not looking grand. Tyler Vermack coming to the line. Needs about 0.3 of a second here if he means to catch up with the front row. Make it a Ford 1-2 at the end of qualifying here in Laguna Seca. Coming to the line then comes the number 89, the last driver on the field, and stays 3rd at the end of qualifying here for round 10. And so, what a session that's been. Just give us one moment. And there you see the final results. Fate Galaxy on pole position by 427 thousandths over White Doctor. Tyler Vermack in 3rd. Chris Davies 4th. We'll get onto the full grid in a moment's time. But before that, one article of news today to discuss. And that, of course, comes from the World Rally Championship, with the shakedown having already commenced and gotten underway for the Rally Monte Carlo for the beginning of the 2026 World Rally Championship. It was Takamoto Katsuta and Aaron Johnston, the fastest pair in the Rally 1 category, leading for Toyota Gazoo Racing. Down in Rally 2, Nikolai Gryzin and Konstantin Alexandrov fastest in Rally 2 with Lancia. Of course, the new Lancia lineup announced for 2026 comprised of Gryzin and Johan Russell was an exciting announcement indeed, with Stellantis Group fielding Lancia for the first time in the World Rally Championship since the 1990s. This is going to make for an incredible season to follow. Lancia leads 1-2 in Rally 2. Toyota leads 1-2 in Rally 1, with Seb Ogier, the last season's champion, now equalising the all-time record with Sebastian Loeb. Continues on his charge to break the all-time record here in the World Rally Championship. This will be his opportunity. 3rd place actually for Toyota 123 was Oliver Solberg. Very exciting stuff then in Monte Carlo. That's set to kick off not too far from now. It's already given us quite a lot to take away. Ford looked to be back on the rise there, with them being faster than Hyundai in Rally 1. More on that another time though. It's time to get onto the grid here for Season 10, Round 10 of VSR. And looking at the front line, it's purple rain across that front row, with Fate Galaxy's number 55 and White Doctor's number 54 adorning the top 2 steps of this field. And these two separated by just under half a second, with the chances, especially reeling out of Silverstone, for back-to-back victories here for Fate Galaxy. He's proven already he has the pace for it, and he proved in Silverstone that he has the strategy for it. The question is, can he do it again? That's what we're set to find out in the next hour of racing to follow. White Bike Doctor right alongside him on the front row. His primary objective is to keep the 89 behind him at all times. Those two separate by 18 points. It can still go down to the wire in this championship here in Season 10. Tyler Vermack will be coasting in the line from the leading 55, so he stands to have a sizable opportunity. He'll be to the inside line on the run in towards the Andretti hairpin. Alongside him, a seasoned veteran of VSR, two-time champion Chris Davies in the number 28, otherwise goes by VSR Chris. Indian Goat on the third row there with Ferrari, with JDM Otzi in 6th place. Bully Boy 7th, with Grizz in 8th, Ryan 9th, and Funky Fish in 10th. Smiler in 11th, Nardo 12th, Eurofighter, otherwise Timo in 13th, and Shawnee Mac in 14th. Dave in 15th, Blue Frog in 16th, and Regent in 17th. So there's the back row once again. The number 61 and the number 420 menaces of this grid. We'll see what they can do just as much as we'll be seeing from the front row here. 55 versus 54. Ford versus BMW on those first two rows. Two serious powerhouses of GT3. Two front-engine giants here. One from Germany, one from America. One with 6 cylinders, the other with 8. So we'll be waiting for just a moment here before we get on to the 30-second warning. We'll be catching on board with the front row. Some of the major talking points then across this circuit. Turn 2, that perilous run into the Andretti hairpin for the first time. We've seen things to get elbows out very early on in races here at Laguna Seca. Just ask the folks over at the Sunday League the same question. They'll tell you exactly what went down in round 9 of Season 4. Moreover, for the rest of this field, we'll be looking in towards turns 5 and 6 for those side-by-side runs uphill, then through the corkscrew where things can also get hairy. On the run down towards turn 10 and 11 will be your next available opportunities. Let's catch on board with the drivers from the front lines here. On with Fate Galaxy, the man leading from pole position. Tremendous weight upon his shoulders there. Championship rivals flanking him on the side and the rear when he charges down towards the Andretti hairpin for the first time. So you can see him holding the brakes there, and that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to almost generate a little bit of heat into the brakes early on, priming them for that slam down onto the brakes in towards turn 2 here at the Andretti hairpin. You can hear it there, that squealing sound, even with the revs climbing, is him holding the brakes and the throttle at the same time. Probably about half pressure on both pedals. That's just to help generate heat, rubbing the brakes, embedding them and getting them ready to bite down hard. We see there off in the background, I think that is the 61, but I think he's just waiting here for the back of the field to show up. So you can see, having carved their way. Oh my word, what was that up in the front there? Have a look on the replays just quickly. That was I think that was Grizz, was it not? So you see there, a bit of swerving from Nissan, and it is, yes, that is the 44 of JDM Grizz. And there, he just gets on the throttle, a little too cocky, and there, slams the wall. So that's damage for the Nissan right off the bat here in the formation lap. Not the best place to have it. We'll try and catch on with the number 44 to potentially get to scope up some of the damages here up through turn 5 and 6 on the run into Sector 2. Can see there is a little bit of damage, nothing too crazy. I don't think anything that's going to end his race here, so definitely something to watch out for though, because that was a risky start had ever I seen one. We're not even got into the main bulk of the action today, and already there's a bit of trouble for Nissan. Chris Davies is going to have an interesting run of things, of course, side by side with Tyler Vermack. These two have had some raring starts in the past in this series. You can see it's a real swarm of German and American machinery lining up behind them. The sprinklings there of Italian and Japanese machinery among them with Ferrari and Nissan. You can see though, BMW and Ford, a prominent pairing of this grid today. Down towards turn 10, in towards turn 11, we see there, up at the front, the story of 2. Could it be the story of 3? With Vermack so close behind? Well, we're about to find out. On board at the moment then with Fate Galaxy, side by side with Season 8's champion, White Doctor, hunting down his second championship. Let's see what the last 3 races of the season can do, starting today then for round 10 of Season 10 of VSR, formerly VSR Phoenix. Down towards the line then, an hour of racing awaits us here in Monterey County, California, and we're green and racing here in Laguna Seca. Already a great start from the 55. The number 89 following in his trails. You can see a great start as well from the number 54 in towards the Andretti hairpin for the first time. We see following on the line from the number 55, the number 89 of Tyler Vermack, looking to get side by side with White Doctor. The 54 takes it all the way to the outside on the exit of turn 2 in towards turn 3. Has a look up the inside, doesn't size anything up too early on. A great start then from the front as they start to peel away. In through turn 4 we go. Tyler Vermack trying to stay close here. Meanwhile, Chris Davies forced to defend from an approaching Ferrari. That's Indian Goat from 5th place. So you can see the Ferrari glued to him in the background there. Further down the line, nothing looking too crazy on the grid. They file into single file. Now it is a rare sight indeed to get through the opening lap here in Laguna Seca in one piece. But I think we might be getting blessed today. Down towards turn 7 and 8 we go then at the corkscrew for the first time. The 55 from the 54, the 89, the 28 and the number 9 in our top 5. We're seeing from behind here, Tyler Vermack starting to reel in White Doctor, his championship rival, mind you. There's very high stakes here on the back of the podium between these two. Meanwhile, out behind them, Chris Davies fighting with Indian Goat. Vermack takes 2 wheels onto the sand there, very nearly takes his car around. We do have yellow flags, and it's for the 420 of Regent, who had a spot above her down through the corkscrew. You can see, though, unharmed and undamaged. So fortunately, he'll be able to keep on going. He lines up now to take a position right off the 504. We'll catch on with them just a little later on, but he's back into the fight. You see up through the point of view here of Tyler Vermack. White Doctor's broken away from him over through Sector 3 into Sector 1. He's now putting the pressure onto Fate Galaxy up at the front of this field. You can see the 2 race leading cars here. Looking out back, we see with Funky Fish at the back of the top 10, separate from RSX Ryan, with Nardo sizing him up from a distance here, 1.2 seconds. A Smiler, not too far at all behind that of Nardo. He's got Blue Frog on his tail from 13th place. Meanwhile, we just saw from Shawnee Mac actually a bit of action here from Nissan. So you see side-by-side action in and around him. Regent getting in and amongst the fray. We see here with Dave versus Shawnee Mac. This is for 14th place on the field up through turn 5 now to turn 6. Up at the front, the 55 and the 54 still clashing heads down through the corkscrew and into the rainy curve. Dave looking up the inside, though, on the number 4. What can the number 70 do? In towards turn 7 and 8. In towards the corkscrew we go. It's contact between the pair. Turned around goes the number 4, and he collects the number 70. Through goes the number 420 of Regent, up to 14th. Timo, otherwise Eurofighter, follows through into 15th place. Those two drop down 2 pegs. We see Dave there off at the rainy curve. And that could be the 70 into the wall. Yes, it is. Yellow flags out. Can he get back up and running? As we see in the foreground, even more trouble. This one hits RSX Ryan as JDM Shawnee Mac, completely shell-shocked now from what's just gone on, ran out wide through turn 11. A very jarring start for many. We see Nardo side by side there with Smiler. That invites immediately into the fray the Blue Frog. Now getting incredibly close on his well, not on his debut race, I should say, on his returning race here to being within the top 10. A little bit of a ding between himself and the 999 of Nardo. Nonetheless, the 61 coasts on through past turn 4. We see there in the gravel. Oh my word, yes, that's a lot of gravel. Yellow flags. It's the number 9. That is Indian Goat. Go and catch on board with the Ferrari here. We do see trouble. It's Indian Goat dropping down to 15th place. Now down to 16th. It looks like catastrophic issues for the number 9. He's got back up and running, but that looks to be damaged. So the number 70 is into the pits. That's Dave. That could be our first DNF here in round 10. The 55 still leads from the 54 just to bring back up that suggestion of a top 3 fight. The 89 of Tyler Vermack is gaining ground over his championship rival. So he'll be catching back on board with those two in a moment's time. So a very, very bizarre turn of fate for so many in such an infinitesimal amount of time. Up through turn 1 we go. We can see here, this is the view of the top 3. Still very close to one another. Fastest of the 3 being the leading 55 by 0.2 of a second to Tyler Vermack. Now the second fastest of that 3. That's not great news for White Doctor, who found himself by proxy the slowest of that top 3 pairing. With the gap slowly but surely equalising between himself and the 2 Mustangs flanking either side. It's a dangerous spot here for White Doctor. Of course, his priority coming into this race is just to continue to outscore Tyler Vermack. He hasn't got an awful lot of threats in the way of things losing out race wins to Fake Galaxy. All of this can be played very tactically in the favour of the 54. He knows he's got the championship in the palm of his hand. He doesn't have to overextend here. He's not going to try and outperform every single driver on the field. If the 55 has it, the 55 has it. All that matters is outscoring that number 89. But I'm sure he'll love to have a go at the front. He's definitely given it a few shoves so far, but as he starts to bleed away from the 55 at the lead of this race, he's going to have to start considering his odds in defense from second at this time. We'll stay on board with these two as they make their way in towards turn 10. On board with the 54, currently defending for second. Out back of them there, we see Chris Davies looking to potentially get into a fight with JD Emotzi and Bully Boy not far from now. Those two separate by 7/10 of a second. Indian Goat and Dave both into the pit lane there. Potentially 2 DNFs to be had. The number 9 in on repairs. The number 70 came to an emergency stop. Meanwhile, we do have information of another fight going on at this time. Now, that's between Regent and another driver on the field. Let's go and catch on board here. It's between himself and Nardo for 11th. Up and around turn 1. Now up to 11th goes Regent. And through to the Andretti hairpin. He holds on a position. Dave on his way back out, so where we thought he could have been a DNF, he was in for quite some time, but he is on his way out. You see here from another Bentley's point of view, actually soon to be reunited for the second time today with Regent. 3.7 seconds away from him in 11th place. The Blue Frog currently 10th. 1.3 seconds away from a fight between two BMWs here. That's going on at this time between Smiler and Funky Fish. On their way into turn 6, the fight for 8th place between these two. Funky Fish, of course, a former VSR champ himself, going toe-to-toe with Smiler. Six-tenths of a second between the pair. Now, the chances are definitely likely here that this is about to become a three-way fight with the approach of that number 61 Bentley from behind. Let's not rule this one out in the near future. That 61 is getting closer and closer at a rate of knots now, really. Meanwhile, up the road from them, the 44 and the 196 head-to-head at the moment with the number 6 and the number 28. So getting in towards those first 10 minutes of racing here, bear in mind, of course, strategy still to play its part down the line from about 20 or so minutes from now. Well, we could definitely come to expect to see the bulk of our mandatory pit stops today. Starting to bleed away from that fight, though. Things are starting to simmer down just a little bit from the fight we just saw. We saw for the 44 actually dropping in a frame here. Let's just go back on board with Funky Fish as he intercepts a wounded JDM Grizz. We saw there to be issues in the formation lap for the 44, and things were very early doors warning of instability issues for Nissan in this race, and we've seen it come to fruition there over the course of this lap here, lap 5 for the number 44. Just quickly looking back in with our top 3. White Doctor still surrounded on all sides by Ford here, struggling to make ground over the leading Mustang. But as we saw in that last lap, actually does have a little bit of ground pace-wise over the trailing Mustang of Tyler Vermack. As you see here, trouble for Regent. That could be 12th place off of the charts here. No, it is not, as we see him still up the road from Nardo. 1.7 seconds as it stands at the moment. But his chances to be reunited with the Blue Frog starting to simmer away in the opening 10 minutes, as we now see the 61 is up the road from the 32 of GTR Smiler. Next in his sights then, the number 982 of Funky Fish. Gotta say, what a pleasure it is then to see the number 61 back on the grid. It has been some hiatus here for Bentley over the course of the last couple of weeks here in Season 10. Now we get to see the Blue Frog do what he does best, and it's carve his way through the field. Very calm and collected in his performance through Season 10 in the early races. Then he just took a sort of a mid-season break, didn't come back for some time. He's back here in Seca. Let's go and catch on board. We will just catch with the 61 in a moment's time. I am informed very close fighting now as we catch on board with White Doctor in the fight of second place between himself and Tyler Vermack. This could be one to watch out through turn 1 and in towards turn 2. These two, of course, hate to sound like a broken record, but our championship rivals. Intensity between the pair, animosity, is going to be at an all-time high. With only 3 rounds left to go, 3 rounds left to gain or lose position in their grand fight for Season 10. So you see there, very close line on the run through turn 4. Now towards turn 5, we see the Mustang still staying very close. Now, limited amount of options for the number 89. He's caught in the slipstream here, so he'll have the benefit in the straightaways, though he already had that from the get-go. The Ford just slightly better in the straightaways over the BMW, but the problem is, on a track this tight, like Laguna Seca, your overtaking opportunities are limited, and with so many corners to stand in the way of those all, it does present a great risk in terms of aero wash. Down through the corkscrew, 2 differing lines on the run into the rainy curve. What can this give in terms of this fight for second? Can it give space over towards the 54? Or is it going to allow for the gap to close for the 89? Out through turn 10, I think we're starting to see a bit of the latter here on the run in towards turn 10. The Mustang holds centre mass of the road, has a suggestion of the inside, and does leap for it in the latter part of turn 11, but just can't carry the momentum. It would have been necessary to hold that position. Those two would have had to go from standstill for him to have stayed over the rear quarter. Through turn 1 in towards turn 2, we see a little bit later on the brakes, and that's to give himself a bit of a wider run in the first part so he can snip in later at the second part. It's a very odd shaped hairpin down at turn 2. We do have another fight going on at this time. It's the 196 versus the number 44, Bully Boy versus Grizz. These two were practically side by side on the run down through to turn 2, but they filter back into single file. Behind them as well, we're seeing that fight between Funky Fish and the Blue Frog. Those two separated by about half a second, and right behind them there is Smiler. So just looking briefly back on board here with the 89. Now away from a whole second here between himself and White Doctor. Over the course of that first sector, the BMW was really able to open the taps up over the Ford. And it's this sort of arm's length distance that he's going to be aiming for throughout this race. Knowing even if the Ford has superior pace over him, if he can hold him through that center sector, he's got very little chances to attack down in sector 1 on the run towards turn 2. Because that's going to be the major overtaking spot of this entire race. I think the bulk of our overtakes can be made or lost in that area alone. We're about to see here that run in towards sector 3, the 982 versus the number 61, and he might even have this one trimmed in before we get down towards turn 2. This is through turn 10 at this time. On the run towards turn 11, Funky Fish working his way back over to the right-hand side of the road. The 61 had a look up the inside, but as we saw there, it's actually caused a little bit of a diversion for the 982. I don't think he was expecting the 61 to do that. It did spook him a little bit, forced him to run out wide down at turn 11. So before we've even hit turn 2, the number 61 there throws a blindsider in the way of Funky Fish. Funky Fish won't be happy with how that's gone, as he'll have felt that the number 61 sort of played on his fight or flight response there, throwing a move like that, even though he ended up faking it out. I mean, it's a classic move in racing. We've seen fake outs all the time. The 61 is no stranger. He's had quite a few fake outs run on him before, so he knows how this trick works. He knows how this trick should be used. He's no fool when it comes to the mind games that come with GT racing. We're seeing a fight up in front of him here. Again, Grizz v Bully Boy. Not to distract from the fight going on the podium between Vermack and White Doctor. We see here, though, Nissan versus Ford. Down through to turn 10, in towards turn 11 we go. Half a second between Nissan and Ford. A little too far away at this time for Nissan to look up the inside. We are seeing as well a fight going here, Funky Fish versus Regent. This is for 10th place, so this is to put Regent into that top 10. It represents a strong point on this field. He started from the back alongside his compatriot, the number 61 of the Blue Frog. both of them to be in the top 10 stands as a real achievement in today's race. Getting back on board with that fight going on for 6th place at this time. Back on board with the trailing of 2, the Nissan of JDM Grizz. Out through turn 4 we go. Taking a look at where the grid stands after the first 15 minutes of racing, Fake Galaxy leads the charge ahead of White Doctor by 3.2 seconds, with Tyler Vermack closely trailing for a fight of second. He's in 3rd at this time. Chris Davies in 4th place, Oatsy in 5th, not too far away at all. We see a similar fight here for Nissan's number 44, JDM Grizz fighting with Bully Boy. Bully Boy in 6th, Grizz in 7th. Behind them, the Blue Frog and Smiler 8th and 9th, Funky Fish in 10th, with Regent in close pursuit. Nardo in 12th place with Eurofighter 13th, RSX Ryan in 14th and Shawnee Mack in 15th, Dave in 16th, back into the pits as well, and we have a DNF from the number 9. Meanwhile, in the background, just to give an update on some of those fights, we are seeing still raging on at this time the fight of 10th place and the fight of 8th for that matter. In the topics of the fight of 5th place, that has been going on at this time, 4th place I should say, sorry, that's been going on between Chris Davies and JDM Oatsy. That still stands in favour of BMW, and it's the same story on the fight of 2nd between White Doctor and Tyler Vermack. Funky Fish now falls in behind Regent, the number 420 into the top 10, having made a move down at turn 2. So we see things are getting incredibly close now. 196 still holds ground over the 44, but for how much longer can he keep this one up? Up through turn 6 we go. Difference in line there earlier onto the brakes for the Nissan, playing things a little bit more hesitantly. We see in the background there, nearly making contact with the wall, a bit of a scrape. He's done well to keep that away from certain disaster, but you saw stepping out wide was GTR Smiler. Does that give the position up over towards Regent? By looks of it, down through the corkscrew. He's had a bit of a rocker there, but he's had to quickly readjust himself to the track. Smiler maintains 9th, but that was very, very close to disaster there. Big step out through turn 6. Car got sideways, and he's only clipped there, the rear left. He's fortunately not taken on enough damage to worry about. So in the next 13 minutes, he'll come into the pits without the consideration of needing to do any damage repairs. He's come off of that one quite lucky, if I do say so myself. The number 420 now sizing up 9th. Meanwhile, in the fight going on for 6th, things start to bleed away for the 44. Less than ideal run through the Andretti hairpin, so that's dropping time away from Grizz and onto the shoulders there, the 196 of Bully Boy. He's starting to pull away there, doubles his gap in 2 corners over that Nissan. And the fight for 4th, Davies v Oatsy. In towards the, not the Andrea hairpin, sorry, the corkscrew. Currently, this fight's still being fought from stalemate. Same story up in the podium at this time in that ongoing fight for 2nd place. Tyler Vermack still clawing at time here, just under a second away from White Doctor. Now on board, this is the fight for 4th place, Oatsy v Chris Davies. This one looking to get closer and closer. We see, though, there is trouble. Yellow flag's currently out in Sector 2. It's the 504 Eurofighter down at the corkscrew in trouble. And so I'm told that's gotten back running, so back into green flag conditions for the time being. Very close stuff at this time between the 420 and the 32. Now, we spoke of this earlier on, was the potential fight to be between Regent and Smiler. We see Regent looking his way out the inside. It'll be to the outside, though, at turn 3. So how does he choose to play this one out? Could it be a run late into the apex? No, he's just going to go the long way around town here to hold it around the outside, but he loses too much momentum and tucks back in behind the 32 for the run out of turn 4. Back on with these two. Now from the point of view of Chris Davies, 2-time VSR champion. Down towards the corkscrew. We'll be cutting between those two fights for the next couple of laps here. We're also keeping an eye Though currently nothing to report yet on the fight of second between White Doctor and Tyler Vermack. Meanwhile, that 55 has continued to carve more space up the road. Fake Galaxy is looking at back-to-back victories. Now, we'll not speak too soon on that one. Still 40 minutes of racing and one mandatory pit stop to play with before the checkered flag flies here in the third from last round of Season 10. With the short distance that the gap currently finds itself at between the 54 and the 89, 18 points coming into today's round. If they keep on this kind of form, it's going to carry all the way to that last round in Suzuka 2 weeks from now. This will not be a saga wrapped up early. This will be one that carries all the way to the very bitter end of it all between those two. Championship chances hang in the balance. The moment between these two here, Chris Davies and JDM Otzi, still sparring for fourth place, though, as we can see at the moment, BMW starting to gain the upper hand over Nissan. Half a second as it stands on the exit of turn 6. Looking here for that fight of second. Very similar story, about half a second between Vermack and White Doctor. But as we make our way through the rainy curve, now though out through turn 10 and in towards turn 11, this is where he's able to open the taps up over the Mustang. And this is all that he needs to do in the grand scheme, is just keep Vermack in that sweet spot, about 8 tenths to a second and north of that, out of his sight, so he's not able to take in as much slipstream. He's not able to follow so closely in the wake of the BMW and have a chance to run up the inside down at turn 2. So looking around the field once again for the nearest fights coming up, this could be one of them. Funky Fish versus Regent. We see looming in the background there, having started from the back, the 420. Up the road from Funky Fish at this time, another driver who started from the back, the Blue Frog. Now potentially sizing up his chances here, not too far off the chances of a fight in and amongst that run of 6th place between Bully Boy and Grizz. Speaking of, let's go and catch on board with those two just briefly here in the fight of 6th place. They're down through turn 3. Ford versus Nissan. Bentley about to become a third party here. A tri-continental battle coming up here. What better car than to make three's company than the Bentley Continental? 3 continents there, North America, Asia and Europe, head to head soon from now. 38 minutes left to go here. In towards turn 6, a little bit of upset in that first sector. We saw a few dips onto the gravel there for the 196 of Bully Boy, otherwise known as Mr. Bernie. In towards the corkscrew we go. 0.3 of a second between the 44 and the 196. 61 is continuing to gain ground. It's a dangerous precedent being carried forth between these two here, knowing they'll be sharing this spot of the track with another not too far from now. And on the stride he's been on over the course of what has nearly been half of the race so far, it has been unstoppable, to say the least, for that number 61. The Season 9 champion in the Porsche Cup era, the Blue Frog, now driving with Bentley. Closer than it's been for some time now. That fight of 6 could be coming to a head here. The Nissan did have the run in the slipstream, but the Ford just has enough top end to keep him at arm's length. Let's go and catch on board with another fight here. We see it coming to a head in the fight of 9th place. Funky Fish overtaken by Regent. Is there the chance for fight back as the two make their way into the Andretti hairpin? Unlikely in the case of that 420. Looking from the back of this top 3 fight, well, not top 3 fight, but this 3-car fight here for the last of the top 6. We watch from the number 61's point of view. Watching here with the Blue Frog. Nissan getting closer and closer to the Mustang, looking to try and put it side by side. It's contact between the pair. They collide down at the corkscrew. Through goes the Blue Frog with very little issue whatsoever for the Bentley. It's calamity between Ford and Nissan as it comes to a head there. The squeeze up past turn 7. Both of them scrambling for the right-hand side of the track. The 196 turns across the nose of the 44, and both of them go off into the gravel on the right-hand side. For the Blue Frog, it's less been a fight of 6th, more an observation of 6th, as now he finds himself up in 6th place with very little having actually needed to have been done in the case of that most recent fight. In terms of Grizz, he still finds himself in that top 10, but it's given a free position there to Regent, nearest to fight him. 0.9 of a second there. A wounded Nissan now up against a still prowling Ferrari. In the pit lanes, the number 196. That could be the end of the road here in round 10. We'll come to see what the case is at the moment. I think by the timing of it here, 35 minutes left to go, this could just be a pit stop run for the 196 to take some damage repairs, get the tyres and fuel sorted and get back out there. But Bully Boy will not be happy. See there, that moment of compression, that's what's caught so many drivers out. It's the Achilles heel for the mid-engine cars when they take that line specifically, as we've seen that before with some of the other mid-engine machines over on the Sunday League. They take that line and it bottoms out in the middle. It makes the back end skip for a moment, and that can make the car step away, and it creates this violent oversteer if not kept perfectly straight there. It's a fine balancing act that one has to do in the span of under half a second to keep the car from taking itself to the wall. Looking around the field as we get in towards the session halfway now, of course, to expect quite a few attendees to the pit lane. We see Nardo given a stop-go 30. I believe that is just about to be cleared here on the exit. No, he has still got that stop-go 30 to serve. He's on his way out from 15th at this time. The 196 in even more trouble as it stands right now. Yellow flags out at the corkscrew. We can see here damage for Bully Boy. He got out of the pit lane not long ago. The 999 had trouble. Nardo now out of this race as he's back into the pits. We see in the background there, the Blue Frog took his way into the gravel. It was very bizarre what we're seeing here in front of our eyes. Things start to unfold just a little bit before that halfway mark. The 999's back into the pit lane. He's brought himself to an emergency stop. That usually only means one thing, that he is out of this round. We'll see exactly what the case is, though, further down the line. You see here for Bully Boy, it's not been a pleasant re-entry to things. Trouble down in the corkscrew and damage over the nose for the next 33 minutes of racing. In the pits at the moment, we see the number 6. That is a, by looks of it, scheduled pit stop for Oatsy. See how that plays out. Shawnee Matt coming into the pit, so too is Oatsy. At this time, he's just on his way out as the number 4 comes in. One Nissan out, one Nissan in. As for the trailing 2 on the podium fight, neither White Doctor or Tyler Vermack have a stab at the pit lane. Their strategy not creeping in just yet. They've still got about a lap or 2 to play with before they're dead on halfway through this race. That goes for the front as well. The number 55, 5.7 seconds up the road at the moment from White Doctor. Yet to have considered a run to the pits either. Looking in the background, we do have a fight going on here. Or did have, what looked to have been a fight, is not, as it turns out there, as it's just simple lapping for the Blue Frog. Now into the top 5, mind you. It's been an impressive run so far for the number 61. Now, bear in mind, he got that extra position up over 6th place because of the run into the pits for Oatsy. So there is that to consider over the course of the next couple of laps here. Regent stays out, so too does the 982 by looks of things at this time. No drivers yet to have considered a run to the pit lane. Neither looks to be the case there for RSX. Ryan had a think of it out through turn 10, but did not inevitably go to the pits. We'll see here. Does the 504 consider their options for a pit lane run? This is with Eurofighter. Not this time. Question remains, as we see not far from our current position is the number 55. Apologies for the slightly sporadic changing through the cars there. It's simply just how we have to navigate things here on ACC. It's not the most efficient thing in the world, but it just works. And again, neither of the podium sitters there thinking of the pit lane run as we get towards what is effectively the halfway mark. I think they're going to carry this one just a little over the 50-50 rule. As close as they dare get it, just one more lap on top for its earliest possible run. See here for the 196, even more trouble, and that front aero damage is not going to be doing him any favors. He's not going to have anywhere near as much cornering power. The nose is just not going to be diving in as much as it did before. He's just going to have to sort of either come into the pits and fix it or just deal with it over the course of this race. He's not really got many options that are beneficial to him at this time. We see going on right behind him a fight currently for 6th place, Grizz versus Regent. The battle of the V6s then. Nissan versus Ferrari. Into the pits comes the 982, so that's Funky Fish in from 8th place on the field.
We are at the halfway mark. Keep pushing.
So you stay on board here with the fight currently for 6th place. We are keeping an eye on pit lane entries. The I believe the number 504 Eurofighter into the pit lane at this time. The 54 and the 89. We'll see what their choices are. I think the 89 is coming in. So Tyler Vermack into the pit lane. We had a yellow flag out there for the number 35 of RSX Ryan with BMW. We still watch here with Grizz v Regent. 0.6 of a second between Nissan and Ferrari. Through the rainy curve we go, and he's got the run over the 44 here. So had it been slightly longer on this stint where neither of them considering the run to the pit lane, this could boil into be a very good fight. We see there going into the pits earlier than the 420 goes the 44 of JDM Grizz. It leaves Regent out by his lonesome to inherit 6th place for the time being. That's going to be a few more places with Tyler Vermack in the pit lane as he's up to 5th. So currently in the pit lane at this time, Tyler Vermack on his way out. We just see there exiting was the 504. Also in the pits this time, we just saw in the 44 of JDM Grizz. As for the 35, RSX Ryan stays out. We see in the background there the approach of the 55, and in goes Fake Galaxy. What is the call then at this time for White Doctor, who has really been shoved down quite a few? 19.629 seconds, severe damage for the 54. So in the time we've last seen him, that has been tremendous issues for White Doctor. This is not proving to be great in his hopes up against Tyler Vermack, who's currently out of the pit lane in 6th place on this field. He's in with severe damage. It'll be a longer stay in the pits. This is all great news then to the ears of the 89. Does leave us scratching our heads then in the time we've not last been watching what happened for the 54. You can see considerable front end damage. Chris Davies then leads the charge here in Seca, still yet to have taken his mandatory pit stop. The 44 has a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. That's for JDM Grizz with Nissan. So this is great news. That's basically solidified 6th place at the worst of times here for Regent. Fake Galaxy's on his way out of the pit lane. Tyler Vermack is only a single corner away. The writing's on the wall here for White Doctor's hopes in this race to stay ahead of the 89. The question is, how well can he mitigate the damages now before we head to the penultimate round of the championship in Barcelona? RSX Ryan stays out. Still yet to have served a pit lane run himself. You see the 54 still yet to have been released. No confirmation as of yet. We'll wait to see it. As of right now, no movement from the number 54. We see close fighting here between the two BMWs, Smiler and Funky Fish. They swap hands for control of 9th place. You see the 54 has now been released from the field. They drop down to 8th from what was 2nd on this field. Davies in. The 61 nearest on grid position here. That's the Blue Frog. An incredible opening stint here. What can the 61 do in the latter half of this race with Regent down in 3rd at this time? These two started from the back. Now they're here. Let's see what they can do. And I think for the 61, he will go on to lead this race before his pit stop. You see there the 61 changing of the guard for the front row. So we now see the Blue Frog up into the lead. With Regent following now to the front row, from the back row to the front. That is quite something. But of course, for these two lads, they do have to come in to the pits at some point. And it's almost inevitable that they'll be seeing the 55 again. Chris Davies being released from the pit lane. RSX Ryan comes into the pit lane to mark amongst our final runs here. As we see collision there with the pit wall. That's been a routine error for quite a few drivers on this grid. Very sharp run into the pits. Still under brakes when you're rolling in towards that corner. Very easy for the car to start understeering, especially given that the tyres are very much so old and worn out. See from the front row at this time, Regent second, Blue Frog in first. Both of these two still yet to serve in the pit lane. 25 minutes left to go. The chances right now have it that they'll pit within the next 3 or so laps of this race. We see a bit of a leap there for the 61. I think that's what put him in the gravel the last time we saw a bit of a escapade for the number 61 earlier on. Is that the calling sign to come into the pits? Not for the 61, and neither follows the 420. You see the 55 may not have to wait for the pits to bring the two drivers up over his nose out of commission for that fight to the lead. He is gaining ground over the number 420 at this time. 24.5 minutes left to go here in Laguna Seca. We'll get a full view of the grid a little later on down the line as we wait for the final two puzzle pieces to fall into place. So on board with the Blue Frog. Currently the race leader. But under that strategy, it will bring him back in. So for these two, they are hoping of chances of a top 5 here. That would be the main goal. Of course, in an ideal world, both of them would be aiming to take this from last to first. But under strategy, it does make that a very, very prominent thorn in their side. Had it been just a single sprint race here and the calamity that had ensued out in front of them, they'd stand a chance. But strategy is the one thing keeping them from this illustrious goal. One day, though, I imagine, the perfect storm will arrive that gives these two the opportunity they've been seeking all season here in Season 10. The Blue Frog, still no suggestion of the pit lane at this time. Same story goes for the 420. We do have yellow flags out. It was for the 35 that ran into trouble. We'll see if we can catch them here. 35 is the BMW of, believe, go scrolling through. We'll find them. And if I'm not mistaken, that's RSX Ryan. Yes, you see there. So even though he came into the pits, it didn't classify as a mandatory pit stop. So he didn't fulfill the mandate. Didn't fulfill all of the prerequisites that constitute the mandatory pit stop. So it doesn't classify as one, meaning he still has to do it in the next 22 minutes. That's more positions to drop from where he currently stands. So you see here, Smiler v Funky Fish, these two BMWs going head-to-head for 8th place at this time. The front row, still yet any suggestion for the 61 or the 420 to come in. The 55 has clear line of sight over the pair of them now, and it's only a matter of time before I should say, a Fate Galaxy descends upon them. The 54, I should say, of White Doctor, has definitely seen better days in this race so far. They're 7th. And a fair distance from the 89. This is a great bit of news then for Tyler Vermack. He'll be moving up to 2nd in this race. Has the chances here to really close down on the gap held between himself and his championship rival, White Doctor. This has put the South African talent in prime position to hunt down the championship. Let's go and catch on board just briefly here in the topic of it. We see up in front, the 420. That's trouble for Regent. Just behind there, as he had trouble out through turn 10. Back into the pit lane then goes Regent. The Blue Frog already into the pits. So up to 2nd goes Tyler Vermack, trailing an injured 196 of Bully Boy. Number 4 in trouble as well. That was, I believe, Shawnee Mac had trouble through turn 10. So that makes 2 cars in that area alone to have had trouble in the last 10 seconds. So onto that topic just briefly, we'll stay on board with Vermack just as we make our way through turns 3 and 4. This is quite relevant in the discussion for the championship fight heading into Barcelona and then heading into Suzuka at the end of the season. We stay on board here with the 89. Now just quickly bringing up the scoring charts as according to VSR. And I don't know if our one is necessarily up to date or if we still have it to hand here. Sadly, no, we don't. So we can't show you on screen what the scorings are. We can tell you, though, based off of current predictions of where they're going to finish in this race. Now, bringing up where the order stands at this time, White Doctor eyeing his chances really at 4th place would be the best case result at this time, but he is quite the distance away from Chris Davies, and with 20.5 minutes, the chances of him usurping the number 28 remain quite thin at this time. So let's say, for example, it's 2nd and 5th at the end of this race. Fake Galaxy doesn't look to show any signs of letting go of that fastest lap. He has held that with quite iron vice over the course of this race, and with strategy to his aid at the moment, he is looking at back-to-back victories, and it has been one of the most gratifying performances he's had since Silverstone, because this has been one where he's really been able to open the taps up, really, on that Mustang, spread his wings and fly here in Seca. So, looking at the example here, 2nd place for Vermac at the end of this race, 5th place for White Doctor. What that currently has them positioned in is a 10-point difference. So that brings what is currently 18 points between the pair down to only 8. And that's the closest the gap has been since the start of the season. And with only 2 races left to go thereafter, with a maximum amount of points of, I believe, in the grand scheme is 102 points, 1 point for the fastest lap, 50 points for a race win. It does leave this very, very open-ended, and every position between now and the season finale, everything is going to count there. To pick up on some other notes here, as we now look at the grid and where it stands after the major wave of pit stop runs, we do find ourselves with quite a few interesting stories indeed. Starting up front then, Fake Galaxy has led this every step of the way. Strategy has been airtight, pace has been unstoppable, and the 55 does not look far from back-to-back victories here in Season 10. Tyler Vermac, very close 2nd at this time, held on to a great performance, was able to outlast the 54, his rival in the championship, and he looks to make this a Ford 1-2 at home here in Laguna Seca. JDM Otzi, though, a really compelling story indeed. The number 6 Nissan makes the podium up and ahead of the BMWs of Chris Davies and White Doctor. White Doctor suffered damage before the midway mark, brought him into the pit lane with a very long pit stop. Fortunately, he's been able to fight his way back up through the field to the top 5. And where that points gap, as we mentioned, is coming down by 10 points from where he stands at the moment, he has every chance to fight the next 2 rounds out to the end of this championship for a potential 2nd under his belt since his victory in Season 8 against Just Boris. In 6th place at this time, having started from the back, is the Blue Frog, making the 3rd row from the back in the number 61 Bentley, his comrade in arms, the 420 of Region. Currently 7th in this race. It's been a topsy-turvy ride for that Ferrari. Plenty of swings and roundabouts along the way. Currently finds himself in 7th place up the road from GTR Smiler. In 8th up the road from Funky Fish. 9th place, Bully Boy at the moment fighting with Grizz once again, this time for 10th. These two were part of that incident earlier on that took both of them around. We see for the 196, though, down through the rainy curve, he's in the gravel and stuck in towards the wall. It's contact there with the wall, and even more damage. Could that be the end of the road for the 196? He has had quite a rough ride of things in that second half. This is not getting any better for the 196 at this time. And there, you can see the nail in the coffin. Sadly, there goes Bully Boy. A day to forget here in Seca. That moves Grizz up to 10th place. Shawnee Mac up to 11th. RSX Ryan 12th, Eurofighter in 13th. Dave back out on track here. He's 28 laps down, but still adamant to see the checkered flag 17 minutes from now. But he's back into the pits, so Lord only knows where he's off to. In terms of the nearest fights, not many to be spoken of there. The closest we were getting to it was going to be that fight going on between the 196 and the 44. We see for Smiler, he had a bit of bother out through turn 6 once again. Very similar by looks of it to what happened to him a few laps ago, where he very narrowly missed major contact with the wall, scraped his way out through turn 6 before the run into the corkscrew at turn 7 and 8. So far for Smiler, though, he's looking at a solid result. He's still within the top 10. He's got good points to bring home today, so doesn't look to be the end of the world here for the number 32 down in the AM category. Speaking of the AM category, though, getting a look over towards Nissan's quarters is where we'll find the leading AM driver of the championship here, JDM Shawnee Mac with Nissan. It was a compelling story way back when in his time in bronze, quite a few seasons ago here on VSR and the now antiquated gold, silver and bronze system. He was a bronze champion at one point in his time, and now he's looking to be the AM champion here in Season 10. The king of the underdogs for the number 4 then. Currently out through turn 1. So you see the 28 close to the number 35, but not for a position on track. That's just to lap or unlap between RSX Ryan and Chris Davies. 15 minutes left to go then here in Laguna Seca, and things have dissipated quite dramatically from where we saw things at the race start. The crowd having thinned out quite a way, because Seca is one of the most brutal tracks in circulation. We've seen how many drivers it's given grief to so far, and it very nearly dissed some out there for the 44 of JDM Grizz. Took 2 wheels onto the gravel, was almost sucked into the gravel trap on the exit of turn 6. I must say, it's a bizarre time looking into it now with Grizz and seeing that he's running the new VSR colours, as it were. You can see they're reflected in the top right hand. VSR went under a rebrand in the last couple of weeks, moved away from its old identity as VSR Phoenix, still uses parts of that name. And as far as we've been led to believe, it is now just going as VSR, in full name, the VSR Console Racing League. And this new colour scheme, away from the golds and the greens that we saw in the Interleague series at Silverstone, now this stark black and neon green. Part of me does miss the old colour scheme for Grizz's car then, one of the most striking parts of the last couple of grids, and even on this season's grid as well, in that bright green that he had, that almost, not necessarily highlighter green, but what really would be the colour? I mean, highlighters have been that green before. There's nothing to say they haven't been, but it was sort of a bright, almost jungle green, I would say. Think of the colour green. It was that. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Do miss that colour. Don't mind this. Nothing wrong with this. It's always nice to reminisce, though. We saw a little bit of trouble earlier on, just whilst we were discussing the semantics of green there, was trouble for the number 70, and that is for Dave. He had a bit of bother down through the corkscrew and then down through the rainy in sector 3. He's back into the pit lane again. We got word there from Mr. Burney what happened. His wheel switched off, so it was a technical malfunction for the 196 that led to the damage in the first place, and then it happened again where he couldn't control the car once he had been taken into the gravel. He was a passenger when his own hardware had failed on him. One of the most brutal realities then to come up against in the world of sim racing is the reality that just like in the real world, the tech can and often will fail you. Of course, in a real life GT grid, I'm sure we're not out of the woods in terms of the issues there. A lot of these do seem to be a lot more grounded issues it would be in the real world. Engine failures, overheating, transmission failures. I mean, Aston Martin and the Circuit of the Americas last year in the World Endurance Championship, the Valkyries, I think it was the clutch system completely seized and the car couldn't engage gear on the run uphill. Ultimately took one of the 2 Valkyries out of the charge there. Happens in the real world, and in the virtual world here, it's just down to the hardware. We are seeing here, actually, just to go back on board with that 420, there's the number 70 again. There's Dave. And, oh, it's contact there between Regent and Dave. What is going on here? Oh, my goodness. Rule number 1 of... well, not necessarily stock car racing. Let's just go with rule number 1 of racing. Learn to take someone out before taking yourself out. Without taking yourself out, I should say. But that is an interesting one. I'm still not entirely sure what the number 70 is doing. I don't know what their game is now. I mean, they've been in and out of the pit lane. I'm not really sure what they're doing. It's curious to see him back in the championship, don't get me wrong, but there comes a point you've got to ask yourself, what the hell is he doing? With all due respect to every driver that comes onto the grid, of course, you know, we respect showing up for these races. But it is a weird one. It is a very weird one. So something to consider at this time. We were informed, the data definitely not lying here, and the assumption Chris Davies is catching up to JDM Oatsy. So there is as we close in on the last 10 minutes of racing here. And I'd also like to consider the factor as well, 5.4 seconds. So he's closed that down quite a lot here from what was upwards of 9 seconds in the last interval was White Doctor to Chris Davies. So that he is closing in, but with 10 minutes to play for, can the 54 hope to catch here? Right now, the calculations have it, based off of a Mac finishing second and White Doctor finishing fifth, the points gap still sits in the 54's favour, but by only 8 points when we get to Barcelona. We are definitely seeing now, this is the worst case scenario for Nissan. They were looking very confident in the assumption they could bring home a podium today here in Laguna Seca. But with 10 minutes left to go, BMW is closing in and closing in fast. This could be a curious one to watch here. The 28 versus the number 6. Veterans head to head. Let's stay on board then with the defending of 2. On with the number 6 at this time of Otzi. Formerly VSR Otzi, as according to the graphic there. JDM Otzi as he changed to after the first couple of rounds. Here in Season 10, we're watching with the fight of 3rd place. Bear in mind, the longer these two spend in each other's wake, the more time they give over to the 54 of White Doctor. You can see now that BMW just lingering in the distance out through the rainy curve. You can see just looming off in the background there. That is a terrifying sight indeed for these two. They do not want it to be Three's company for that podium. They want to be in their own world, and I don't think that's a privilege they get to experience for much longer in their current position, because closing in now by 4 seconds to Otzi. So by proxy, that's going to be under 3.5 seconds to Chris Davies. The pressure is on. The 54 has got target lock. In through to turn 4, little dip there onto the left-hand side, into the gravel. Up towards turn 5 we go. The battle on 6 cylinders then, BMW versus Nissan. In through the corkscrew we go. Bear in mind, they're about to be joined there by a third party. The 54 closing in fast now. Only 3 seconds away from Chris Davies. 3.5 seconds from JDM Otzi. For Otzi, he's giving it absolutely everything he can here in that Nissan, but the best simply will not do, because the 54 is still gaining ground. This is a terrifying sight for these two. They tried to be stuck into their own league here, stuck into a fight of 3rd place amongst each other, not having a focus on the outside world, but the outside world has come a-knocking, and the 54 is about to be part of the fight of 3rd. 7 minutes left to go here, and that checkered flag could not arrive sooner for these two. Things are about to get dicey here in the closing acts of round 10 before we get on to the final 2 races of the season. These 2 positions represent a significant chunk of the advantage currently held by White Doctor. How much of that is to be taken away? Meanwhile, we did have a yellow flag, and it was for the number 420 of Regent down through turn 10. Had a spot of bother again. Now, that's been a repeat offense area there for the 420. He's had quite a few issues down through turn 9 and 10 over the course of this race. We saw an incident earlier where he was stranded sideways. The 420 still up and running. We'll see whereabouts they are as we bring up the display to the left-hand side here, just to get a little bit of more information as we head into the final chapter of racing here. Things unchanged on that front row still, as seen since seen last time. A 1-2 for Ford. Fake Galaxy looking at his 2nd race win back-to-back from victories in Silverstone. And Tyler Vermack looking at a hefty chunk of points there, brought back into his favour from 2nd place. But this is the topic of the final chapter of round 10. JDM Otzi versus Chris Davies, soon to be JDM Otzi versus Chris Davies versus White Doctor, closing in at a rate of knots. Blue Frog in 6th place. Regent stays in 7th, but just to point this out, that 420 has now dropped directly onto the iron sights of the 8th place number 982 BMW. That's VSR Funky Fish to potentially scrap with the 420 for 7th in the next 5 minutes of racing. Smiler in 9th, Grizz 10th, Shawnee Mac in 11th place, RSX Ryan in 12th, with Eurofighter in 13th. It has thinned out massively since the race start here. It has been slaughter here in Laguna Seca. Little bit of issue with the cameras there, just trying to find the right angle. In towards the corkscrew we go. Looking over the rear view once again, just to get a gander at the BMW, still trying to close ground. Chris Davies close proximity by half a second, but much, much closer now. Not scarpering around in the background. You can see him in frame. There is the 54. Over the course of that last lap, just held about 2 tenths worth of an advantage. But you can see in the comparison to White Doctor, he was 6 tenths slower than the 54. If that is the average at this rate here, he'll be on top of them in the next lap or 2. It could be a case where they are made as a 3 for a fight of 3rd place on that final lap. We're not far from that now, though. So let's stay on board with these two, soon to be these 3. The pressure starting to settle in here on the pair of them. You can see trying to kick the back end away just to give himself an ounce more rotation through turn 5. VSR Otzi, otherwise JDM Otzi, is really forced up against it. This is for a very solid position indeed. Nothing to scoff at on being on the podium today, especially in Nissan's case on a grid that was dominated in front of them by Ford and BMW. They find Ford over their nose, BMW over their tail. It is not a fun place for Nissan to be at this time. In towards turn 10, now running in towards turn 11. He's done well so far to keep that BMW at arm's length. He's kept Chris Davies out of the line of fire. He's not been able to make any moves up the inside. He's just been a little too far away, but he's not too far away to be exploiting some of that slipstream. And the BMW just ever so slightly faster than the Nissan, but we have seen as well, not to be counted out of the straight line speed battle. The number 28 though runs a little bit wide. He can surf this one back in to a late apex at turn 2. Ultimately does trim away a little bit more time than he'd like to in sector 1, and you can see all this has done is open Pandora's box, because there is the 54 now firmly part of that fight for 3rd. So let's go and catch on board then from the back of this newly found 3-car pack for that 3rd place fight, as we catch on board with White Doctor. A revenge drive then for the 54. Damaged earlier on this race, his chances to outscore Vermac scattered. Now, as we get in towards the final rung of laps, not far from this point. I believe one more coming up after this one for these 3. So, to give you an update there, silver and red BMW up over the nose of the 54 we're on board with at the moment. That's Chris Davies and the number 28, and then up in front of them the dark blue Nissan. That's the number 6 of JDM Otzi. That's your 3 competitors here in the fight of the last of those podium positions. Now, to run the calculations again, this time, if he's able to clear both of these cars and make 3rd place at the end of this race, he'll only end up losing in the grand scheme over Tyler Vermac a scope of about 4 points. That's a points gap dropping from 18 to 14 points. So these 2 positions represent a sizable chunk of the advantage he could still hold by Barcelona. At this time, it'll drop by 10 points between the pair, and he'll be looking at a currently 8-point gap between himself and the 89 when we head to Barcelona next week at the penultimate round of Season 10. The 55 crosses the line to begin the final lap of racing here in round 10, but our eyes are still firmly affixed on the 3-way fight for 3rd. It can come all the way down to the wire here. It's been valiant defense by Nissan. A little wiggle there for the 54. So nearly trouble for White Doctor. But what it has done is kick away a few tenths of a second. A little bit of breathing space for Chris Davies. We've seen battles come very close to the line here in Laguna Seca, and that was over on the Sunday League. We're not disappointed to find the very same carrying out here in VSR. Right now, though, that little jiggle for the 54 ended up putting him out by a few tenths, and that's been the catalyst here. And we up the inside goes Chris Davies. So I was about to say that was the catalyst for him to break away from White Doctor for these two here, but that move has actually brought both of them back in line. Oh my word, it's contact between the pair, rear-ended. Chris Davies brake checks the 54 of White Doctor. I don't believe what it is I am seeing here. What on earth has just happened here? Brake checked, slammed into the wall. What on earth just happened? The 28 is in. That is one of the most controversial moments I think we have ever seen. All the meanwhile, having crossed the line, not to diminish from what he has been able to do today, on board then with Fate Galaxy. Back-to-back victories then for the 55 as the checkered flag already flew for the 55. We just missed him across the line, reviewing what on earth just happened in that final lap. Mr. Scallops there, one of the leading drivers and Season 2 multi-class champion on HCCL, just suggesting in chat, did he think the race was over? We've seen premature celebrations in motorsports before. I think one of the most famous examples came from MotoGP, but what kind of driver slams the brakes when he thinks the race is done? There was still one more lap to be had between the pair. It was only decided by the car behind them, the 55 of Fate Galaxy. And this has proven to be absolute disaster as it stood. With White Doctor with severe damage at this time. The 61 now up over his nose. Blue Frog will see 4th place in this race today. And a great result for Bentley. I don't necessarily know, folks. It is a tough one to piece together. It looked like a brake check when we first saw it. We didn't yet consider the angle that perhaps maybe Chris Davies thought the race was over. So our apologies, maybe jumping to conclusions there. That's up to race control to investigate. But that still raises the question. Who slams the brakes when the race is over? Especially with the car right up behind. That would be not the wisest of moves. He did. Lost Snail 2041 saying Chris didn't brake, I don't think. I mean, we can look back to the replay here. You can see he hits the brakes. Maybe not so violently, but there, he does hit the brakes. And that hits the 54. Bear in mind, there was still 6 seconds to the end of the session there from when that collision occurred. Very, very strange one indeed, but not to take away from what the 55 has been able to do today. I do feel that incident may have overshadowed what has been joy and jubilation. Now 2 weeks on the trot for the 55 of Fate Galaxy. Ford see double victories here with the new 55 joining among them. He won in Silverstone and he wins here in California, winning in Laguna Seca by 14.4 seconds. It is brutal work from Fate Galaxy. Had this been slightly earlier in the season and had it not been for the hiatus he had, I'd have every right in assuming Galaxy could have been championship material here in Season 10. I suppose we can only wait to see what Season 11 brings later down the line. Tyler Vermack in 2nd. JDM Otzi takes 3rd for Nissan. Blue Frog 4th. White Doctor 5th. Chris Davies 6th. Regent 7th. Funky Fish 8th. Smiler 9th. Grizz 10th. Shawnee Mack 11th. RSX Ryan 12th. Eurofighter in 13th. And there you can see the wad of DNFs. Bully Boy, Nardo, Dave, and Indian Goat. What a controversial end to a race indeed. I'm sure maybe this is all one big misunderstanding, but that's up to race control to find out, and I do not envy the task they've been given, because that was quite something. But what a race it's been for Fate Galaxy. Absolutely flawless work there. It's lonely at the top once he gets the hang of it, and the 55 was off by his lonesome throughout today's race. relatively speaking, unopposed. From what was a brilliant qualifying session came a brilliant race. And now that the gears are all turning in synchronization, it has been a fine work of art here in today's race from that 55. Very, very well done to Fade Galaxy. Very well done as well to Tyler Vermack in second place and JDM Otzi to make the last of those podium positions. And also very well done to the rest of the drivers for making it to the end of this race. It has been absolute slaughter here in Seca, as always. Well, reeling from what was definitely among the most perplexing endings to a race I've ever seen in my time, taking a look at that calendar then. Round 11 comes up next then in Season 10 of VSR. We'll be heading to the penultimate stop of Season 10. 45 minutes of race in the last sprint race of the season, I should say, on January 28th at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. A circuit we've been to quite a fair few times in the last couple of weeks here, and has proven to be quite the treat every single time. That's all from us here on TRTN. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.